I was working as the sales manager at my husband's company. One day, I was shocked by what my husband, whom I'll call Dave, said when he came home. "I got a 29-year-old beautiful employee pregnant. Please, let's get a divorce." I was stunned. Overwhelmed by the suddenness, I couldn't organize my thoughts. Later, I told Dave that I wanted to discuss this with the three of us and then lay down on the bed in the bedroom. The woman, Emily, was pregnant. The cause of infertility was me. Even though I thought I had fallen out of love with Dave, tears uncontrollably flowed. The next day, I overheard a conversation between Dave and Emily. "Why didn't you leave her, a woman who can't bear an heir? She's good at her job. I have no reason to fire her. So why not keep her around? Once the baby is born, we can have her take care of it." "Great idea, Emily. You're smart. She's older, so she probably knows a lot about childcare." I clenched my fists at their laughter. How dare they? They won't be laughing for long. I'll make sure they regret ever making a fool of me. I'm Monica, a 44-year-old housewife. 10 years ago, I reconnected with Dave, a childhood friend, at a college reunion. Dave was the only son of a well-known local company. He lost his father when he was young and now his stepmother is the company chairwoman. In college, I attended the same lectures as Dave but never got close due to the difference in our backgrounds and his always lively surroundings. However, upon reconnecting, I found him to be down-to-earth, approachable, and cheerful, without any airs of wealth. After a dinner together, Dave asked me out, and eventually, he proposed. My family was just a typical middle-class household. I was nervous that his mother might object to me as not suitable, but when we visited his parents, they readily accepted me. My education in accounting, finance, and business management, along with my qualifications, seemed to impress them. After our engagement, I joined Dave's company and am now managing sales and administrative tasks as the sales manager. Having grown up watching my parents' loving relationship, I always dreamed of a happy marriage. I never doubted that I could build a warm home with someone I loved. So, it was unimaginable that my happiness would crumble just 10 years into marriage. Initially, Dave was very kind to me. He had a wide social circle, both professionally and personally, so almost every weekend was booked with plans. While Dave's friends were also his, they were strangers to me. But instead of leaving me out, he took me along to barbecues, camping, skiing, and introduced me to his friends, including men, women, couples, and married folks. I, having no friends of the opposite sex, felt uneasy about his female friends, but Dave interacted with them respectfully. Neither the women nor Dave showed any inappropriate behavior, which relieved me. Both Emily and Dave showed no signs of inappropriate behavior, which eased my worries. Dave interacted with everyone, singles, married people, men, and women, without distinction, and in a friendly manner. I, being extremely shy, admired Dave for this quality. However, over the years, Dave's attitude towards me grew colder. He would frown upon seeing me, sigh, or look disapprovingly at the cosmetics in our bathroom. "Dave, our anniversary is coming up, right? I'm going to make a reservation at our usual restaurant," I said, trying to initiate a conversation. But his response was grumpy. "I'm busy with work. Can't you see? I don't have time for a restaurant." "What? But you always made time for it, no matter how busy you were." Dave sighed deeply, sounding exasperated. "If you want to go so badly, go by yourself. How long are you gonna keep up this newlywed act?" His harsh words left me feeling downcast. He must be tired and irritable, I thought. So, I sent him his favorite brand of tie for his birthday, but even that didn't please him. "Monica, you have no taste. I'm tired of this brand. Why increase the clutter in the dresser?" "I'm sorry." I had researched online and even visited the store to carefully choose it, but his response was so dismissive. I couldn't recall doing anything in particular to anger him. Despite saying he was busy, he regularly went out with his friends. Was it that he didn't want to go out with me? The thought crossed my mind. And then, something definitive happened. He invited me to the mall, so I got ready enthusiastically. I wore a new dress, made my makeup more glamorous for the private occasion, and waited excitedly for Dave to finish getting ready. However, once he was ready, he looked at me and smirked. "What's with that outfit? Wearing a skirt at your age? Is it not okay? Aren't you aware of your age? You're a proper middle-aged woman, right? The makeup is too flashy, and your hair is styled, it's embarrassing. You used to be cute, but it's different now." His disdainful tone pierced my heart. "But your friends dress up, right? They can because they're beautiful. You're different. You're just an old lady trying to look young, and it's painful to see." "I'm not trying to look young or anything," I replied, but Dave just clicked his tongue. "Dress more normally. Are you trying to embarrass me?" "Ah, forget it. I've lost my mood to go. You ruined it after I went through the trouble of inviting you." Annoyed, he threw his jacket on the sofa and retreated upstairs to his study. "Lunch today is shrimp fried rice. I want to eat in 30 minutes, so get it ready." His voice came from upstairs. I had just dressed up a bit for a rare outing. But somehow I upset Dave. I bit my lip to hold back tears, changed into my room clothes, removed my makeup, and began preparing lunch. If I think about it, Dave is the same age as me. If I'm an old lady, then he's an old man. I'm not a beauty, and Dave is just an average middle-aged man. Raised to be the next president of the company, he's full of pride and overconfidence. His assertiveness seemed attractive before we were married, but I never expected to be looked down upon like this. Sometimes I almost speak my mind. But since we work together, I see him at the office too. If we're awkward, it affects the employees. So, I end up giving in and trying to please Dave. At home, he's a typical domineering husband, but outside, he's friendly and leaves a good impression on everyone he meets. He's the stereotypical second-generation wealthy heir, with zero business acumen but a charming smile and friendliness that endears him to clients and business partners. But at home, his grumpiness is like that of a different person. "I'm the president, you know? How can I eat such cheap food? Ramen noodles would be better." He would always complain if the menu wasn't to his liking, slurping his instant noodles next to me. Also, when Dave is home, he seems displeased if I have plans to go out. "You don't even take care of your husband and just wander around. Are you even a housewife?" "I'm just going to buy clothes. Lunch is ready in the microwave, and I'll be back before dinner." "You should be the one serving the meals. You're a housewife, aren't you? Living off the money I earn, you sure are living comfortably." Of course, I earn less than Dave as the company president, but I also work full-time and receive a decent salary. I contribute to our living expenses, so I shouldn't be subject to such complaints. When Dave initially took over the company from his mother, his inexperience caused troubles with business partners. It was me who went around apologizing at that time. "You used to be cute 10 years ago, but now you look like a worn-out rag." Now, he criticizes my appearance every chance Hugh gets. "You're a failure as a wife since you couldn't bear an heir. I'm being merciful by not divorcing you. Be grateful." I wanted kids too, but it's not something we can control. How about we get more tests done at the hospital? We might still have a chance. But Dave just shook his head. "I don't want to spend extra money. It must be your fault anyway. I forgive you only because you're competent at your job." When I felt irritated, I would meet my best friend, Sarah, and vent to her. She knew Dave from our college days and always sympathized with me. "Dave puts on a good face outside, so he takes out his frustrations on you at home. Such a hopeless guy," Sarah said, frowning. "He used to come crying to me about what to do. Does he think he made the company big all by himself? Maybe he's forgotten his beginnings." I muttered. "I worked hard too, with the support of his mother and other executives." "Thank you, Sarah. Talking to you always clears my mind." As I thanked her, Sarah responded with a bright smile. "I'm always on your side, Monica. If anything happens, just tell me. I'll be there for you." Her strong words always lightened my heart. Recently, Dave's behavior has been visibly strange. He's always out on weekends, claiming it's for socializing. Even on weekdays, he doesn't return home until after midnight. Yet, he never looks tired, always appearing happy. One evening, after finishing my chores, I was reading in the living room. Dave had left in the morning without mentioning his destination. Likely to return late at night. But unusually, he came home just past 8 p.m. Entering the living room, his cheeks were flushed, and he looked unable to contain his happiness. "Welcome home, you're back early." "Monica, rejoice." "What? Why?" "I'm going to be a father." I blinked in disbelief. "What?" "I got a 29-year-old beautiful employee pregnant. Please, let's get a divorce." I stared at Dave, taken aback by his words. The suddenness of it all left me unable to process my thoughts. "I'm finally going to be a dad. There'll be an heir at last. Mom will be so happy." "Wait, you've been cheating?" Without any shame, Dave replied. "Do you know Emily Johnson from accounting?" "Yes, she's quite beautiful." "Right. She's beautiful, has a great figure, and she's still in her 20s. Plus, she's good at her job. Young women are definitely the best." Although I knew Emily was beautiful, it was the first time I heard she was good at her job. "So, you're useless to me now. Let's get a divorce," he said bluntly. I felt indignant. Over the last 10 years, my dissatisfaction with Dave had accumulated, and I had no attachment to our marriage. But I wasn't naive enough to simply say, "Okay, I understand," and agree immediately. If he had been cheating all this time, I deserved a substantial alimony from both of them. Being suddenly asked like this puts me in a difficult position. "Can you invite Emily over later? Let's have a three-way discussion." Dave responded enthusiastically. "Got it, I'll tell her." Watching his cheerful stride as he went to take a shower, I closed my book. I went upstairs to the bedroom and lay down on my bed, feeling a sense of emptiness. I was more devastated by the fact that he had a child on the way than by his infidelity. Dave had always wanted an heir. Of course, just because he wanted it didn't guarantee a boy would be born. But more importantly, I hadn't been able to get pregnant. If Emily was pregnant, it meant the issue was with me. I wondered if I had a baby, would I be happily parenting with Dave now? Even though I thought I had lost all love for Dave, I couldn't stop the tears from flowing. The next day, I went to work early with swollen eyes. I made myself a coffee to wake up. As I was about to leave my office, I overheard Dave and Emily's conversation through the door. Was she shocked? Yeah, she was stunned. It's hilarious that she didn't notice the affair. It's been going on for 2 years. Emily chuckled. "Dave, why didn't you dump her sooner since she can't have kids? She's useful like a housekeeper, plus she's good at her job. If we divorced, it would be awkward and she'd probably quit. Then keep her around for now? We can always dump her later. Once the baby's born, we can make her take care of it, saying it's the president's child." Dave seemed impressed with the idea. "Emily, you're so smart. She's older, so she must have knowledge. If we say it's for the baby's sake, she'll probably listen." Hearing their laughter, I clenched my fists. They could laugh and scheme all they wanted for now. I would make them deeply regret ever mocking me. After making necessary preparations, I informed Dave 2 weeks later to invite Emily to our house. On the day she arrived, Emily entered as if visiting a friend's house. "Sorry for intruding." "Wow, Dave's house is really lovely. I've always wanted to come here." Her eyes sparkled with excitement. Dave arrogantly said, "You could have asked sooner. I even had her cook dinner for us." Ignoring my frowning face, Emily looked around the room curiously, walking around freely. "The kitchen is spacious and stylish, quite a contrast to my one-bedroom apartment. Your place is cute too, like a young girl's home." "Really? Dave, can I see the other rooms?" Dave agreed with a grin and led the way. "This is the living room. Next to it is the sunroom." "A sunroom? I want one too." "Oh? There aren't many houseplants. Is this Monica's preference?" Emily criticized the space with 2 indoor hammocks and a glass table. I wondered what kind of nerve she had to criticize the interior of someone's house when she was supposed to apologize for the affair. But then again, a sane person wouldn't propose raising their child with the wife of their lover. Oh, no way. Monica, unlike you, kills plants immediately. She's probably hated by them, Dave said. That's sad for Monica, Emily laughed. Annoyed by their laughter, I said bluntly. We're here to talk, right? Let's sit down at the table and get to it. I waited for Dave and Emily to sit on the sofa across the table and started the conversation. I want to confirm again. Emily, you're pregnant with Dave's child, right? They both nodded. Monica, I'm sorry. But this is fate. Emily's eyes welled up with tears as she clasped her hands together in a pleading gesture, looking at me. Her overly familiar way of addressing me irked me. I'm having a baby. Dave and I were meant to be together since our past lives. It was a mistake for him to meet and marry you, Monica. We need to correct this mistake and start over. It would make both Monica and Dave unhappy. I love both of you too much to let that happen. Hearing her absurd logic, I could only offer a thin smile. Her self-justifications were so outrageous that they left me more astonished than angry. I truly love Dave. Please let me have his child. Emily pleaded in a saccharine voice, while Dave sniffled, seemingly moved to tears. I love you, Emily. It would be unfair for our child, the heir to Smith Industries, to grow up without a father. We need to raise him together. Dave and Emily, sitting close and earnestly appealing, only made me feel more disenchanted. Any lingering affection I had for Dave had completely vanished. I had no desire to continue as his wife. Fine, but I'm quitting my job. Wait, keep working. Dave frowned. You'll struggle to find a job at your age. Considering your contributions, we can keep you at the company. Really? I have qualifications in management. I'm sure I'll find something. Dave's so kind. He's saying you can stay at our company, Monica. I don't mind at all. Glancing at her, I sighed. That's not possible. Because of that woman. I paused for a moment before dropping the bombshell. She's been embezzling company funds. What? Emily's eyes widened for a moment before awkwardly shifting her gaze to the floor. What did you just say? Dave showed intense agitation. I kindly explained. This woman has been embezzling money meant for entertainment and business travel expenses. She filled in blank receipts with her own amounts. I spoke matter-of-factly to a pale-faced Dave. It's been going on for 2 years, and no one noticed except me. It only came to light after I interviewed the relevant parties recently. I sighed. Even for a family business, such laxity is unacceptable. I'm thinking of quitting. The thought of seeing your faces after the divorce is nauseating. So, I'm going to find another job. Stop making weird accusations. Emily protested, her face contorted. Where's your evidence? The chief accountant, fooled by you, confessed everything to the executive director. Want to see the video? As I reached for my phone, Emily covered her face with her hands and started crying loudly. I'm sorry. My father's company went bankrupt, my mother collapsed from shock and got a terminal illness. My brothers rebelled against our parents, made debts, and disappeared. My salary alone wasn't enough, so I did it. Emily sobbed intensely, as if she had prepared eye drops beforehand. Dave was completely fooled, hugging her shoulder, sympathetically consoling her. That's tough. You should have told me. I didn't want to trouble you, Dave. I used all the money to pay off debts, I can't repay it. Dave seemed to believe her blatant lies. She probably squandered the money herself. Don't say that, we're not strangers. Don't cry too much, it'll affect the baby. How much is it? $40,000. I expect it all back. Depending on your attitude, I could press charges for embezzlement. Let the company cover that. Who knows about this? All the executives. I'll silence them. Emily, don't do it again, okay? Yes, I won't. Thank you. I was disgusted at Dave petting Emily's head. Such leniency from a CEO was unbelievable. It felt like watching a poorly acted couple from an outdated romance drama, making my stomach churn. I suppressed my nausea and proceeded as planned. So, Emily working part-time at a hostess club was also to help your family? Dave showed a brief moment of disturbance at my words, but quickly pretended it was nothing. Our company doesn't forbid part-time jobs, but I wish you had reported it. I'm sorry, Emily replied, her face tense. I didn't miss her reaction. Smiling, I laid out some photographs I had obtained on the living room table. I'm not sure about this. It might affect the baby, but if it's your choice, Emily. Her expression changed instantly as she snatched the photos. What's this? Pictures of you with clients. I thought Dave might not want to see them. As Emily forced a smile, I placed different photos in front of Dave. He gasped. The photos showed Emily arm in arm with various men, looking happy as they entered hotels. Emily frantically gathered the photos showing her in intimate relationships with multiple men, but it seemed to be too late. Desperately, she tried to explain to a speechless Dave. It's not what you think. I felt sick during out-of-club dates and just went into rest. I haven't done anything wrong, please believe me, Dave. She pleaded with sparkling eyes, but even Dave looked shocked. Is that true? You don't believe me. That's awful. You're the only one for me, Dave. Clinging to his arm, she made a passionate appeal, but even Dave seemed bitter. Sighing, I stood up and brought my personal laptop from the bedroom, inserting a USB from the private investigator, playing the incriminating audio. As the scandalous voices filled the room, Dave held his head in distress. Stop it! The walls of hotels are surprisingly thin. It seems easy to record through them. Is it the technology or the equipment that's impressive? As I stood up, Emily approached me with a furious expression. How shameless! Are you going this far just to break us up? Don't you care about Dave's feelings? Doesn't it bother you to hurt him? I'm just revealing the truth. You're the one who hurt Dave, right? And are you really pregnant? Or do you just want to be the CEO's wife? It's different. My belly will start showing soon. It's definitely Dave's child. With all those men, who knows whose child it is? It's a mother's intuition. Intuition, huh? It was almost laughable how brazen she was. Emily confronted me, shouting back. Those guys were just flings. I truly love only Dave. Sorry, but I can't understand your perspective, Emily. I shrugged in resignation and turned to Dave. What about you, Dave? Would you raise the child as your heir even if it doesn't resemble you? That's... Surprised by his hesitation, I added sarcastically. So, any boy will do, even if he's not your blood? Just like a cuckoo. What? My child isn't a stranger. And don't you talk, you're not even pregnant. Emily exploded in anger. You've always been so arrogant despite being unattractive. I've hated you since I joined the company. You act all high and mighty just because you're good at your job. She ranted furiously at me. Stop flirting with male employees. Stop using your charms on bosses. You're always so annoying. As I listened silently, Emily became more emboldened and crass. You're just jealous because I'm prettier, right? You thought marrying the CEO made you a winner, but too bad. Emily laughed shrilly. Hey, that's enough. Dave interjected, dismayed by her vulgarity. He tried to calm her, but the heated Emily kept hurling insults. Useless at bearing children, not even pretty, you'd have been divorced long ago in the past. But you're lucky Dave is kind. He pitied you and kept you around, even though you're defective. But that's over now. Give me the CEO's wife position, and go back to being single, old lady. Tired of responding, I let Emily's tirade wash over me until the living room door opened. The person who appeared turned Dave pale. Mom? The chairwoman? Perfect timing. Emily said, her face lighting up as she stood. "Nice to meet you, Kate. I'm Emily Johnson from the accounting department. I'm pregnant with Dave's child. It's definitely a boy. I'm carrying the heir, so Dave and I are getting married." Dave's mother looked exasperated, holding her temple. Sighing deeply, she spoke in a low voice. "Dave, can you silence this frivolous woman for a moment?" Emily was stunned by the scathing remark. The mother-in-law glared at Emily as if she were trash and sharply scolded Dave. "The only person who can call me Kate is Monica. Dave, it's because you're so oblivious that you attract such nonsense." Emily was puzzled but forced a smile. Kate, in my womb is Dave's child. I'm certain it's a boy. I'll replace the incapable Monica and give birth to a worthy successor. A child is essential for the future of the company, right?" However, the mother-in-law twisted her face in disgust and spat out. "I don't care if it's a boy or a girl. Wanting to be the CEO's wife? Are you sane? To embezzle company funds and then say such things." "But, Mom, Emily has complicated family circumstances. Can't we overlook this just once?" Dave pleaded. The mother-in-law replied with a half-smile. "You're such a foolish boy. Did you really believe her story?" Dave's face fell as he looked at the documents his mother slammed on the table. "Kate, you also had Emily's background checked by an investigator, huh?" "I see." Glancing at the papers, I chuckled. "Her parents work for a major corporation, and her brother is studying abroad. Her family is wealthier than mine. So, the embezzled money was for her own use." Dave looked incredulously at Emily. "There are photos of you shopping extensively at brand stores. Your debts are due to credit card payments, right?" The mother-in-law sneered. "Also, the gynecologist Emily visits is an acquaintance of mine. After explaining the situation, they told me she's not pregnant." "Excuse me? She's been visiting for irregular periods, right?" Emily turned bright red at the mother-in-law's sly smile. "Don't go spreading personal information like that, old hag." All right. Anyway, prepare yourself because we're suing you for embezzlement. Sarah, please handle the procedures." "Understood, Chairwoman." I smiled at Sarah, who appeared behind the chairwoman. Yes, my close friend Sarah was the company's legal consultant. When Emily's embezzlement came to light, I informed the mother-in-law and immediately consulted Sarah. We had been timing the pursuit of the issue when Dave suddenly demanded a divorce from me. "I'm sorry for lying about being pregnant. But it's true, I really do love Dave. Please believe me." Emily pleaded with teary eyes, softening Dave's expression. "That's right, Dave. You're being dismissed as CEO for your responsibility in the affair." Dave and Emily gasped in shock. "Come on, it's just an affair." "You had an affair with a woman who embezzled funds. It's only natural. Not a single executive supports you." "No way," Dave murmured, his head in his hands, trembling. Dave was well liked by our clients and other company presidents because of his people's skills. That's why we kept him around. The mother-in-law continued sternly. "But a son who disregards a wife who contributed to the company and chases after an empty-headed young woman is useless to us." "Wait, you're firing me? Please, no. I was deceived by Emily." Dave's voice was almost tearful. "Mom, I was wrong. It was just a moment of folly. I'll break up with Emily, so please keep me at the company. It's impossible to find another job at my age." Dave's pathetic plea and his clinging to his mother seemed to turn Emily off. "What? You were so in love with me, and now you turn your back just because your mother says so? You're the worst." Emily's eyes narrowed in anger. "I only cozied up to you because you were the president. If you were a greasy middle-aged man 15 years my senior and a regular employee, I wouldn't have given you a second glance." "What? You said you fell for me even without my title, you lying woman." "How naive to believe that. That's why you got tricked by me." Emily's words made the mother-in-law shake her head in exasperation. "You're both as bad as each other. In that sense, you're a perfect match. At that moment, the doorbell rang. Checking the monitor, we saw police officers standing outside. They had arrived in a patrol car, considerate of the neighbors, without using the siren. Seemingly not expecting to be actually arrested, Emily was visibly shaken. She even tried to charm the police officer when he entered the room. "Officer, please listen. I was tricked by the head of accounting. We'll discuss this at the station. Please come with us." Dismissively ignored by the officer, Emily clicked her tongue and was escorted out in the patrol car. Dave stood dazed at the doorway, watching as Emily was taken away in the patrol car. He then stumbled back to the sofa, his shoulders slumping in defeat. Later that day, it appeared that the complicit head of accounting was also arrested. However, since both were first-time offenders, they were soon released. Having spent all the embezzled money, Emily had no savings left. To repay the embezzled amount and my compensation, she had to take out loans. Naturally, she was fired from the company, so she started working multiple part-time jobs, including her previous job at the Hostess Club. Working tirelessly day and night. She could no longer maintain her appearance. And when I saw her in town recently, she looked gaunt and worn out, a shadow of her former beauty. As for Dave, after our divorce, his mother's mercy saved him from being fired. He was transferred to a regional branch. The details of his dismissal as president spread among the employees, and he was viewed with contempt, making his work life unbearable. His mother had disowned him, and his savings were depleted by paying me compensation. Dave even reached out to me, seeking reconciliation.
"Monica, I was wrong. Let's start over. I promise no more cheating. You won't abandon your ex-husband in need, right? Why don't you ask one of those young girls you adore for financial support? You still have a job, even if it's a lower salary. Just work hard." I cut him off over the phone and eventually blocked his contact. From what I heard from his mother, his once bright personality was nowhere to be found. He hardly spoke to anyone, focusing solely on his work, and spent his weekends locked in his room. In Dave's place, his cousin, who had been the vice president, became the new president. I was recognized for my contributions and promoted to a board member position. The new president, though not a great conversationalist, was sincere and well-liked by the staff. My work has become busier than ever, but I feel fulfilled every day. Although Dave and I are divorced, I sometimes have meals with his mother. Despite her position as the company chairwoman, she never pressured me to take over. This experience deepened my respect for her character. My ties with Dave have been severed, but I look forward to maintaining a mentor-mentee relationship with his mother as a senior figure in my life. After 7 years of caregiving, my mother-in-law, Hannah, passed away from pneumonia. My husband Tom and I had just finished her funeral and were at Hannah's house to sort through her belongings. The empty caregiving bed in the living room painfully reminded me of our loss. "Hannah," I murmured, stroking the bed's railing, lost in memories of her, when suddenly Tom shouted, "Move. You're in the way." He marched towards the window clutching a familiar suitcase. And he threw it into the yard. "What? Wait! What are you doing?"
I yelled, rushing out, forgetting even to put on my sandals. That suitcase was mine, brought from our condo for the overnight caregiving stays. Tom continued, tossing out shoes and coats into the yard.
"Stop it! What's this all about?"
I screamed, glaring at him. He coldly retorted, "With the old lady gone, you're useless. Get out," and began throwing more of my belongings outside. Feeling the stark reality of our strained relationship, I felt an overwhelming emptiness. "Fine, let's get divorced. I'll take my things out myself, so stop throwing them," I conceded. "Good. Write the divorce papers now," Tom demanded, smugly placing a half-filled divorce form on the table. It was clear this had been his plan all along. I silently filled it out. "All right, I'm going to file this at the office. Clean up the house while I'm gone, got it?" "Sure, but..." "Tom, are you sure about this? You might regret it." "No way." He scoffed and left without looking back. And just like that, our marriage ended unceremoniously. I'm Kelly. I'm 46 years old and single. I live in a quaint, old house in a small town and work at a nearby local market. My income is modest, so I live simply, but it's a peaceful, carefree life. However, just months ago, I was worn out from caring for Hannah and managing household tasks. Especially since Hannah was bedridden, my days revolved entirely around her care. Sometimes I wonder if my current life is just a dream, given the hardship I experienced back then. The meeting between my husband, Tom, and me dates back to our 20s. We were colleagues at work. We were both fresh hires in the same department. He had a girlfriend from his college days, while I was passionate about my job, eager to work more. So back then, Tom and I were just good colleagues, without any romantic feelings. That changed when we both turned 29. After a year-end party, Tom said he wanted to talk to me. Why does he want to chat now, after sitting next to me several times at the party? I wondered, walking with him to a park near the station. Tom seemed nervous and hesitant to start the conversation. To break the ice, I joked, "What's up? You're not gonna come crying about extra work again, are you?" "I'll help, but favors during the holidays come at a price." At that time, Tom often asked me for help with work. Normally, he would be asked during work, but at this time, it was a very busy period due to the year-end and New Year holidays. Requests during busy times can be difficult to bring up. I assumed on my own that Tom wanted to ask for help with work but was hesitating to do so. So I made it easier for him to speak up. But I was way off the mark.
No, it's not about work today. Kelly, will you consider dating me with marriage in mind? Marriage? With me? What about your girlfriend? We broke up a while ago. So, what do you think? I'm serious.
I was silently surprised, but not displeased. In fact, I felt a growing sense of joy. Tom had always seemed sincere and kind in his work. And although I knew he had a girlfriend when we first met and had given up on any romantic thoughts, I had actually harbored feelings for him for a long time. Without hesitation, I said, I'd be happy to. Tom beamed and did a triumphant fist pump. Looking back, that might have been our happiest time. We got married within a year of dating. Our courtship was brief, but since we saw each other at work every day, we knew each other well. Turning 30 also gave us the push to tie the knot quickly. I planned to continue working after marriage. However, Tom insisted, "I'm terrible at housework, so I want you to stay home after we're married. I earn enough for us, even with a couple of kids." He even told our boss, Kelly's quitting, without consulting me. Our boss, who believed in the old-fashioned idea that women should quit their jobs after marriage, agreed without hearing my side. So, I left my job, somewhat reluctantly, but soon discovered I was pregnant. There was no maternity leave at my company, so I would have had to leave anyway. Though I'm not fully happy with how it turned out, it was probably for the best. I left with everyone's well wishes, and I was excited about the life ahead with my child, I thought. But the happy future I envisioned never came to pass. One day, nearing my 4th month of pregnancy, I was struck by severe abdominal pain and rushed to the hospital. The doctor told me I had a miscarriage. My world went blank in that moment. With severe abdominal pain, I was admitted for emergency surgery and called Tom. Despite his confusion, he assured me, "I'll be there right away." Waiting for Tom, I struggled to come to terms with the tragedy. In my hands was the shiny new maternity book I'd received just weeks ago. I stroked its cover repeatedly, tears streaming down my face for what seemed like hours. When Tom finally arrived, seeing my red eyes, he hugged me tightly, saying, "Kelly, it's gonna be okay. I'm here for you." In that moment, I felt truly relieved to have him as my husband and slowly began to accept what had happened. 6 months after being discharged, I started trying to conceive again. To avoid repeating the past tragedy, I focused on getting the right nutrients and exercise daily by walking. I even read books about pregnancy and took notes from online stories. Despite all my efforts, the day to receive another maternity book never came. 2 years later, I decided to start infertility treatments.
Tom, I'm thinking of getting treatment at the gynecologist's. Infertility treatment?
Yeah.
I haven't conceived since the miscarriage, so I want to get checked out. What do you think? Well, if that's what you want, I won't stop you. Use the savings for the hospital bills, he agreed. Thanks. I'll make an appointment right away.
Though he agreed, Tom's attitude and tone felt distant, as if his mind was elsewhere. It's been 2 years without conceiving. I guess it's understandable, I thought. Tom's interest in having a child seemed to be fading. On top of that, lately, he had been suggesting things like wanting to buy a dog or a cat, and even using a portion of our savings to go on an overseas trip. Each time, I'd respond, maybe we'll conceive next month, so let's hold off for now. In hindsight, I realize my approach might not have been the best. I rejected his suggestions for a change of pace, focusing solely on trying to conceive. We even went as far as expensive fertility treatments, engulfing our lives in the process. My desperation contrasted starkly with Tom's waning interest in having a child. Then one day, an incident occurred.
This is strange. It's almost time for the appointment.
I muttered, checking my watch repeatedly outside the gynecologist's office. We were supposed to have a consultation together, as advised by the doctor. But Tom never showed up. Frustrated, I sent him a text and got a brief reply, sorry, got caught up with work.
What? I can't believe this.
I thought, dismayed. Despite having told him months in advance, Tom had easily chosen work over our appointment. That night, Tom didn't come home until late. When the weekend came, I brought up the topic of visiting the doctor together again. But Tom said, do we really need a kid? I think we're fine as we are, and refused to go. I was already hurt by his canceling and not coming home until morning, but these words made me more angry than sad. So, I lashed out, what's that supposed to mean? You know how hard I've been trying, right? We can't have a child by myself. Anyway, I'll let you know when I make another appointment, so make sure you come next time, okay? At that moment, I was more focused on how hard I had tried and how hurt I was than trying to bridge the growing gap between us. I didn't even try to understand why Tom would say such a thing. This incident turned our relationship completely cold. Tom never accompanied me to the hospital, not even once. Instead, he started coming home late every night and spending weekends separately. Naturally, there was no intimacy between us anymore. Could this be infidelity? With the anxiety of not conceiving and suspicions of cheating, both my mental state and our marriage were on the brink of collapse. It was Hannah, my mother-in-law, who reached out to help. After her husband passed away, Hannah had been living alone in her longtime home. Hannah's house was just 3 train stops from where we lived. Hannah and I often met for lunch and shopping. And over time, we started calling each other by first names, becoming like friends despite the age difference. One day, while having lunch as usual, Hannah said,
Tom can be so thoughtless, I'm really sorry. The hardest is on you, Kelly. Tell me, have you had enough of Tom?
Well. I couldn't answer right away. I was angry at Tom's behavior, but when asked if I disliked him, the answer was no. However, I knew that if things continued as they were, I would eventually come to dislike him. That was the one thing he was absolutely sure of.
I don't hate him yet.
I replied softly, then silently sipped my coffee. Nothing more, nothing less. That was my answer. Hannah quietly accepted my feelings, patiently waiting until I finished my coffee. With my own parents out of the picture, Hannah was both a friend and a mother figure to me. Her enveloping kindness always brought me solace. And in that moment, I felt she gave me the courage to take a step forward. So, as I finished my coffee, I said, but we can't go on like this. I want to try again. Can you help us?
Of course. Let's have a meal together, the 3 of us.
Hannah replied with a gentle and warm smile. A few weeks later, we had a dinner on the anniversary of my father-in-law's passing. During the meal, Hannah brought up our strained relationship and suggested, "This is a good opportunity to talk things out." At first, Tom mistakenly believed that I was trying to force Hannah to participate in fertility treatments against her will. So, at the beginning of our discussion, he kept refusing, claiming it was unfair to gang up two against one and that men and women think too differently for a conversation to be productive. I was so upset by Tom's behavior, I seriously considered divorce. However, Hannah remained calm. She patiently continued to talk to Tom, repeatedly conveying that I'm just a mediator. Thankfully, after a while, Tom started to listen. We uncovered several truths during this conversation. Tom no longer wanted children. He was avoiding coming home because it was all about fertility treatments. And he was open to the idea of divorce. Despite the difficult revelations, I felt this discussion was meaningful. The conversation continued, and we agreed that Tom would limit his nights out and that we wouldn't pursue a divorce. However, to be honest, our relationship was far from the harmonious one we once had. Still, I was relieved to know his late returns weren't due to infidelity and that he wasn't seriously considering divorce. Above all, I was happy to remain part of Hannah's family. Years later, one evening, I received a call from an unfamiliar hospital.
Hello? Yes, that's my mother-in-law. What? An accident.
Hannah had been in an accident while traveling and was rushed to the hospital. The sudden and tragic news left me shaking, unable to stop my trembling hands. The next day, I rushed to the hospital where Hannah was admitted. Lying there, covered in bandages, was Hannah.
No, this can't be. Hannah.
I was prepared for the worst, but the extent of her injuries left me speechless. But the tragedy didn't end there. Hannah had suffered a severe head injury in the accident, resulting in paralysis and a bedridden state.
Caregiving.
Yes, undoubtedly. She's fully conscious, though, so communicating won't be an issue.
I understand.
I replied, though I honestly don't remember much of the conversation after that. The word caregiving kept echoing in my head, blocking out everything else. The next day, I stopped Tom before he left for work to discuss what to do next. By then, Tom had changed his career to a pub manager after being invited by an old friend he met while out drinking. Caregiving. I have work, so I'll leave Mom's care to you. Tom callously said that and left the house without another word. Since his job change, he has been very busy, hardly ever at home. His lack of interest in talking to me and silently leaving the house has become a daily occurrence. But this time, it's about his own mother, right? Why is he so indifferent? I was deeply upset by Tom's lack of concern for Hannah. Determined, I decided to handle Hannah's care all by myself. I'll do it all alone. However, caregiving alone was tens of times more challenging than I had anticipated. Although I hired a caregiver within the budget for daytime care, I had to care for Hannah by myself at night. Furthermore, since Tom was against living together, I had to shuttle daily between Hannah's house and our apartment, taking care of laundry, meals, and cleaning for both places. My hair and nails were ragged and dark, stark circles had formed under my eyes. Even in such a state, the reason I didn't divorce was to stay part of Hannah's family. Kelly, thank you so much for everything. But remember, if it gets too hard, it's okay to divorce. I want to stay part of your family, Hannah. So, I won't divorce. Our bond, though only by marriage, was stronger than that of many real families. I never once regretted taking care of Hannah. My only wish was for her to live as long as possible in a comfortable environment. That was all. That was my only wish. Before I knew it, 7 years had passed since I started caring for Hannah. By then, Hannah's health had declined, and she frequently suffered from pneumonia. On the day she passed away, she had pneumonia again. I held her hand tightly, lying in her hospital bed, staying by her side until her last breath. Thank you for everything, Hannah. I don't know if my words reached her, but Hannah looked peaceful and content in her sleep. A few days after the funeral, Tom and I went to Hannah's house to sort through her belongings. The empty caregiving bed in the living room painfully reminded me of our loss.
Hannah.
I murmured, caressing the bed's railing, lost in memories, when Tom, carrying a familiar suitcase, angrily said, "Move. You're in the way," and started towards the window. He then opened the window and threw the suitcase into the yard.
What? Wait! What are you doing?
I exclaimed, rushing out without even putting on sandals. That suitcase was mine, brought from our apartment for overnight stays. Tom continued, throwing out shoes and coats into the yard. I collected them, yelling, "Stop it. What on earth are you doing?" glaring at him. Tom retorted, "I'm throwing away what we don't need. With the old lady gone, you're useless. Basically, you're not needed anymore. So, we're getting divorced today." "Get out," he said, starting to throw more of my things outside. I had thought that after Hannah passed, divorce might be inevitable. But I never expected to be treated like this. I felt a profound sense of emptiness, realizing our relationship had completely cooled. "All right, I get it. Let's get divorced. I'll move my things out myself, so please stop throwing them." "Fine, write the divorce papers now," Tom said with a triumphant look, pulling out a half-filled divorce form from his bag and placing it on the table. So prepared. I realized this had been his intention all along, disguised as sorting out Hannah's belongings. I silently filled out the form. "All right, I'll submit this to the city hall now. You clean up the house. Got it?" "Sure, but are you really okay with this, Tom? You might regret it." "What? No way. Don't come crying back to me later," he said dismissively and left without looking back. And just like that, our marriage came to an abrupt end. However, a few days later, Tom suddenly contacted me.
"This thief. You swindled my mom."
Tom, who had been searching the house for Hannah's will, found a letter instructing to contact a law firm upon her death. Proudly, he called the firm, only to become furious after seeing the will's contents and contacted me.
"Giving everything to you makes no sense. Refuse it."
Tom was agitatedly ranting, so I simply said, "Let's discuss this with a lawyer present." 3 days later, at the lawyer's office where Hannah's will was kept, a meeting took place. Hannah's will expressed her gratitude for my dedicated caregiving and wished to leave her estate to me. It also stated that she felt no need to leave any love or inheritance to Tom, who didn't value family.
"I'm her son, and you're just a stranger. Why do I, her son, get nothing? I have a right to the inheritance."
Tom was furiously yelling, leaving even the lawyer at a loss. I used to know Tom as a reliable and calm person. I thought. Our relationship had cooled since the failed fertility treatments, but he had seemed more mature. He's changed so much during the 7 years of caregiving. I remembered how Tom was when we first met. But the Tom from those days is nowhere to be found now. Realizing this, I felt a sense of release. I took a deep breath and said, "I'll ignore your infidelity if you just stay quiet. Or would you prefer I involve a lawyer in a different matter?" Tom, stunned and at a loss for words, stammered, "What are you talking about, all of a sudden? I've never cheated." He trailed off, glancing nervously at the lawyer's expression. In that moment, I knew. He was indeed unfaithful. Actually, I had no proof. Just a guess from his behavior. But it seemed I was right. I pressed further, saying, "I have all the evidence, so shall we discuss this through a lawyer? If it comes to that, it's going to cause trouble for your partner as well." Of course, I had no evidence, but Tom didn't know that. The lawyer, sensing the situation, silently observed. As a result, he quickly agreed, saying, "Fine. I'll follow the will. But don't you dare sue me or anything. I just don't want her to find out." It seemed he was truly serious about his affair partner. Additionally, the mortgage on the apartment was fully paid, and there was a decent amount of savings, so he wasn't in need of money. The reason Tom wanted the inheritance was because he said, "I need the money for my future with her. The apartment and savings just aren't enough." His girlfriend seemed to be quite expensive. Even after resolving the will's issue, Tom grumbled till the end. But since he ended up with the condo and savings, and there were no alimony or child support payments, he wasn't at a loss. Still, he seemed to always want more and more. People change so much. The man before me seemed like a complete stranger, and while I felt a sense of sadness, surprisingly, there was no regret or longing. Maybe I've changed just like Tom, I thought, as I quietly concluded the rest of the discussion. Afterward, I moved to my current old house and began hosting overnight dinner parties with old friends. That's when I incidentally heard about Tom again.
Hey, your ex-husband, Tom, right?
He's in trouble now.
Oh?
Trouble? What happened?
He was sued by the husband of the woman he was seeing. She was married. What? Really?
Yeah, and he can't pay the high alimony, so he's disappeared like he's on the run. His pub is still temporarily closed too. My friend continued with more rumors about Tom, like the husband he upset is supposedly connected to the underworld, so it might not just be a getaway, he could have been abducted. And also. However, these were all speculations, the truth unclear. As a stranger now, it didn't concern me, but my friend concluded with, "So, Kelly, be careful of any strangers, okay? Call me if anything happens." I felt fortunate to have someone worrying about me. Indeed, I received a considerable sum from Hannah's estate, half of which was originally my father-in-law's. I used some to buy this old house and a car for transportation, so about half of it remains. I'm saving the remaining half of the inheritance for when I might need it in my old age, in case my health fails. That's why I'm working at the local market to earn my daily living expenses. But I'm completely satisfied with this life. It's the life I've longed for. It's been 17 years since Tom first asked me out. Now, I've found fulfilling work, regained my joy of living, and reclaimed my time. I dream of opening part of this old house as a cafe someday. My name is Kelly Martin. Finally pregnant in the 5th year of marriage. When I think about it, it seems like it was a long winter. I wanted a child but couldn't have one, and seeing mothers with their children was painful. My husband never understood how I felt. Sometimes, he even called me defective. It was a marriage filled with tears. But when I found out I was pregnant, it felt like spring had come at last. However, instead of moving on to summer, it felt like we went back to the depths of winter. That's because...
Congratulations!
When the midwife said that, my husband uttered unbelievable words. I would like to request a DNA test immediately. Why would you want a DNA test? How can I know if this child is mine?
What? It's obviously your child. I just gave birth to it.
Just because you gave birth, can you be certain it's my child? How can you say for sure you haven't cheated? That's why I need to check. Unless you have something to hide?
What are you talking about?
The doctor and midwife were shocked at my husband's words. It was an unprecedented birth drama. To think that his first words upon seeing his child were these. You would think so, wouldn't you? Have you always thought this? That this child was the result of an affair? We couldn't have a child for 5 years. Suddenly having one is strange. It's only natural to be suspicious. That's like declaring yourself infertile. Besides, shouldn't you be happy we could conceive and that the child was born? Instead, you ask for a DNA test right after birth. That's weird. Weird or not, the test will show whether the child is mine. Once it's confirmed, I can love and raise the child without any worries. Doctor, please proceed with the test. With that, my husband produced a toothbrush in a plastic bag. He had prepared it in advance. Ah. Yes. The doctor was in a state of confusion. Mrs. Martin, is that all right? His words seemed to imply that they might reveal an affair. That seems to be the case. But since I haven't cheated, there's nothing to worry about. Yes, if that's what my husband wants. Please go ahead. I answered clearly. A few days later, in front of my smirking husband, the doctor reported the DNA test results. It's 99.9% not your child. Shocked by the unexpected result, I looked at my husband. He had a cold look in his eyes.
I knew it, it's not my child. That's ridiculous. It's not ridiculous. This confirms your affair. I didn't think you were that kind of woman, but I'm a forgiving man. I'll overlook your affair. But I can't raise a child that isn't mine. We're getting a divorce.
He said that and left the hospital room, humming a tune. My parents, who had come to see their grandchild, asked me what was going on, but I was the one who wanted to know. I can't believe this test is true. I murmured, and after being discharged, I went back home. There was no sign of my husband, only a cold atmosphere. Where could he have gone? Looking at his belongings, it didn't seem like everything was gone. Was he coming back occasionally to take things? Or did he just take what he needed? Knowing it was pointless to wonder, I took my husband's toothbrush, put it in an envelope, and mailed it for a retest. The truth should be clear in 2 weeks. At the same time, to find out where my husband was, I called my in-laws. However, they seemed unaware of anything and were happy to hear I was discharged. They even thanked me for having their grandchild. So, my husband hasn't told his parents. He's not at his parents' house either. Then where? Then it hit me, the word affair. Could it be, he is? Suddenly, I had a realization, and an image of my former husband flashed in my mind. My husband didn't seem happy when he found out I was pregnant. Instead, he seemed annoyed and said, "Now?" Since then, he started coming home late and was often on the phone outside the house. The frequency of his messages increased significantly. I didn't want to worry, thinking it would affect the baby, so I tried not to think about it. But if all those signs were of an affair, could he be with another woman now? After calling me defective, he was the one having an affair? I had my own plans. I made a call to locate my husband. For 2 weeks, as I struggled with these painful thoughts and took care of our child alone, everything changed when the new DNA results arrived. The reason is, the DNA test results stated. The paternity test shows 99.9% likelihood he's my husband's child. I knew something was off. Does this mean the sample my husband provided was fake? I wonder whose it actually was. More importantly, why did he do this? It was clear that the child was his, so why deny the father-child relationship? Even if he had other women, this seems excessively cruel. Every time I looked at the results, my anger towards my husband, who abandoned his parental duties, grew, as did my hatred. I couldn't forgive him for abandoning our child. I wanted to get back at him in some way. Holding my child, I thought. Be prepared, I'll never forgive you. I had decided on revenge. Leaving my child with my parents, I went to the apartment where his mistress lived. Right after being discharged, I had the DNA test redone and also hired a detective to investigate my husband's affair. Thanks to that, I was able to pinpoint the woman's apartment and knew my husband would likely be there. The apartment was barely better than a regular building, with no real security, just a residential complex. I easily made my way to the woman's apartment and rang the doorbell. "Hello," a woman's voice said as she opened the door, almost as if she was expecting someone. She looked puzzled upon seeing me. "Who are you?"
I'm Hugh Martin's wife. My husband is here, isn't he?
As I said that, the woman uttered a small ah and looked at me triumphantly, as if mocking me. I was infuriated by her contemptuous face, but I wasn't here for her, I needed to see my husband. Right. You're still not divorced, so you can still call Hugh your husband. But it's bold of you to come here, considering you had an affair. A woman who gives birth to her lover's child sure has some nerve.
I need to talk about that. Bring my husband out. Talking to you is pointless.
What do you mean, pointless?
That's what I mean. Now bring my husband out, or I'll start yelling right here. Wonder what the neighbors will think.
As I said that, the woman reluctantly called for my husband. Then out came my husband, in a sloppy appearance. I couldn't believe he had an affair with this man looking like this. What's up? Why are you here? Hugh's wife. Wow, scary to have the wife barge in like this. The woman said, hiding behind my husband, but I could see a smirk on her face. Such a nasty woman. How did you find out where I am? A reasonable question, indeed. I couldn't reach you, so I hired a detective. So you left home and moved in with her within 2 weeks. Turns out you were the one having the affair.
What are you talking about? We just started dating 2 weeks ago. So, I haven't cheated.
Yeah. Whatever. The fact remains you're cheating.
We're getting divorced, so it doesn't matter who I date. It's none of your business anymore. You're right, but we're not divorced yet, so the fact that you're cheating hasn't changed. And it's also a fact that the child born is yours. That's not my child. The test results show 99.9% it's not mine.
Whose sample did you use for the test? That toothbrush wasn't yours, was it?
It was mine. Of course, it was mine. Really? That's strange. When I returned home from the hospital, your toothbrush was still there. Not even a new one. So I used that toothbrush for a retest. And look.
I shoved the test results in my husband's face.
See? 99.9% your child. I didn't cheat, but I thought it was a strange story. Plus, you insisted on a test right after the birth. Normally, you'd be happy that the baby was born. Why, I wonder? Well, that's because I thought your behavior was odd, so I thought it'd be better to get it checked.
How could you possibly think my behavior was odd? Your behavior was far stranger. I just didn't want to worry during my pregnancy because I thought it would affect the baby. But to think that right after the birth, you'd say something like that and then run off to be with another woman. It means you were cheating and wanted to cover it up.
What are you talking about? That's just speculation.
It's not speculation. The test results are right here, and you're living with another woman. Moving in with a woman after just 2 weeks of dating, that's crazy unless she's incredibly naive. Well, that's. Confronted with the test results and the investigation report, my husband seemed speechless. But trying to find a way out, he was hesitating, thinking of something to say. However, his mistress, Mira Arthur, turned everything upside down. That's right. Hugh has been dating me for a year now. That's why he wasn't happy about your pregnancy. She said it with a laugh, thinking she had one because she had Hugh. So, you've been dating for a year. Thanks for letting me know. And whose toothbrush was used for the DNA test? Well, that's. No point in hiding it now, right? It's clear it wasn't yours. Wouldn't it be better to just tell the truth? I don't want to be left in the dark about it if we're getting divorced. Okay. You're right. But don't blame me, okay? I won't blame you. Yeah. Given your personality, you wouldn't blame someone for something like this. Something like this. Right. We seem to have different values. But for now, I won't blame you. Yeah. The toothbrush at that time was hers. Hers, this woman? Yeah, if it was Myra's toothbrush, there's no way it would match as parent and child. I see. So you were well prepared. You used your mistress's toothbrush to deny the parent-child relationship and push for divorce? Well, yeah. I see. But now you're free to play around, right? We're free from each other now, so no problem, right?
I don't want to play around. But being with a cheater like you would only make me sick, so I'll grant you the divorce. Here's the divorce paper. Please sign it. I'll drop it off at the office on my way home, so sign it now.
All right, I get it. This means we'll be strangers now. You can get married now, can't you? Yeah, that's right. My husband signed the divorce papers with a happy look, and the woman also seemed pleased as she watched. After he finished signing and stamped it, Hugh handed the papers to me. Well, that settles our divorce. I'm glad. Yeah, me too. I feel relieved. I should have just asked for a divorce straightforwardly instead of going through all that trouble. Right. Now that we're divorced, can you tell me the truth? How did you two meet? It was a year ago, so I wasn't pregnant yet, right? Yeah, every time you got your period and became gloomy about not being able to have kids, I started to feel uncomfortable at home. That's when I met Mira through social media. If you want to find a boyfriend, social media makes it easy, you know. Thanks. Not that I'm looking for a man, but I'll keep that in mind. So, you two are planning to get married, huh? Yeah, we are. Right, Hugh? Yeah, that's right. We're going to be happy from now on, so you should be happy too. I hope so. After saying that, I left the apartment where my husband and the woman lived. But getting his signature on the divorce papers was not my only goal. After leaving the apartment, I made a phone call. I have something to tell you. I'm on my way, I said with a smirk and started walking. Now, I'll send you both straight to hell. The real revenge starts here. A few days later, my husband contacted me in a panic.
Hey! What the heck is this?
What is this?
Shut up. I'm asking you a question.
Wow, talking to a stranger like that. I question your common sense.
Just listen to me.
What? Fine, I'll listen.
I got a letter from a lawyer.
So? What about it?
What's this about alimony?
Alimony is alimony, right?
Why do I have to pay alimony?
Because you cheated. I was proven not to have cheated, but you admitted to having an affair. She even kindly spilled the beans.
But we were already getting a divorce.
But we weren't divorced yet. We just signed the papers that day. Plus, you said you've been together for a year.
I said that, but it's not evidence.
So it's come to this. I recorded it at that time. What did you say? I didn't blame you like you said at that time. I just left it to my lawyer.
Why are you demanding alimony from her too?
Because she's the mistress. It's common sense. She knew you were married and still had an affair with you, so it's only natural that alimony is due. Don't you feel sorry for her? No, I don't. Why should I feel sorry? I'm the one whose husband was taken away. You're not supposed to be so heartless. That's just your fantasy. I'm quite a merciless woman, you see.
How can a 26-year-old like her pay such a huge amount?
She shouldn't have stolen someone's husband in the first place. If she did, she should have been ready for the consequences.
She's not at fault.
What? Of course, she is. Don't say such stupid things. And about the child support, pay it all at once.
I can't pay such a huge amount all at once.
That's not my problem. If you pay in installments, and you decide to skip payments, I'll be the one who misses out. It would be unfair to the child. Raising a child is expensive. But that child isn't mine. Are you going to keep harping on the results from her toothbrush? Stop it, or I'll sue you for fraud. And another thing. Even if the child really isn't yours, the law sees any child born during the marriage as yours. So even if it's not your genetics, you still owe child support. Lucky for you, it's your own genes. Alright, I'll pay, but all at once?
If you don't pay all at once, I'll garnish your wages.
Garnishing wages? It means you'll only get enough money to barely live on. I'm serious.
Alright, I'll pay. I never thought you'd be this terrible. If I pay, I'll be rid of you. That'll be a relief.
Right. This will sever our ties. But remember, I'm taking revenge because you betrayed me. My revenge on you is not over yet.
What do you mean? What are you planning to do? Hey, answer me.
Hugh has always been a coward. I knew that such threats would work effectively on him. I said that to instill fear, but he really took it to heart and soon paid the child support in full, borrowed from somewhere. Thanks to that, I had a period of peace for a while. But that peace wouldn't last forever. Because I was steadily preparing the next bomb. Then, about a month later, the bomb went off. At the right time, I contacted Hugh. As expected, his voice sounded utterly defeated. Hello. You sound cheerful.
Well, you sound quite down. What happened?
It's Mira. She got fired. Oh, really? Yeah, apparently, her affair got exposed. But I've never heard of that company firing someone just for an affair. Yet, they said in Myra's case, it was unforgivable. Well, that's naturally unforgivable. Why? It's just an affair. Everyone does it these days. Mira said other employees had their affairs exposed but weren't fired. Why was only Mira fired? Maybe because she chose the wrong partner? Partner? You mean me? Yes, you. That's why it's a problem. What do you mean? Her company is a publishing house, right? Yes, it is. Do you know who its parent company is? Parent company? No, I don't. It's my father's company.
What? No way!
It's true. You seem to have forgotten, but my father is the CEO of a major corporation. His company owns many subsidiaries, including her publishing house. So you're the one who said it? It's safer to say that my father, upon learning the cause of our divorce, found out where she worked and decided to fire her. You told him where she worked? I didn't tell him. I just showed him the detective's report.
It was you.
Think whatever you want. Listen, she was working hard. She's bedridden from the shock of being fired. Please, talk to your father and ask him to take back the dismissal. There's no way I'll do that. Why would you think I would? I suffered from my family being destroyed. A little suffering for her is nothing, right?
But she just got into the publishing house.
Well, she can find a job at another publishing house. She's young, she should have that much energy. Don't you feel sorry for her? I don't. You're so worried about her, but remember, your turn is next. What do you mean? Your company is a subsidiary of my father's company, right?
Stop, please. I've paid the child support in full and have a lot of debt. If I get fired, what am I supposed to do?
That's not my problem. You made your bed. You better brace yourself. Firing you will be much easier than firing her.
Please, I'm sorry, just stop. It's too late for apologies. You're the one who did this. The tour to hell isn't over yet.
True to his word, Hugh was fired a few days later. Apparently very angry, he stormed into my house. Why did you do this? It's too much. Thanks to you, I'm unemployed. How am I supposed to live with all this debt? You left me and our child, even falsified the DNA test results, right? Isn't this the natural consequence? You made me angry. Plus, you said our child wasn't yours after making one. Unheard of irresponsible parenting. So what? Only I suffer? Don't think this will be the end. Oh, I have a major corporation CEO backing me. What do you have? Nothing. What can you possibly do?
You'll regret doing this to me.
Regret? Aren't you the one who should be regretting? I don't know what you're planning, but instead of that, shouldn't you be looking for a new job? You have a huge debt, after all.
A new job won't just appear. You'll regret this. Just wait and see.
With that, Hugh left the house, looking frustrated. However, a few days later, he did something unthinkable. While I was putting away groceries, he took our sleeping child from the car. I never imagined such a thing could happen. When I went to bring the child in, I realized they were gone. I frantically searched but couldn't find them anywhere. Realizing it was a kidnapping, I contacted my father. With his influence, the police quickly found my child, but Hugh, caught by the police, insisted it was his child.
This child is mine. I just took my child back. What's wrong with that?
You know, even if it's your child, you can't just take them if the ex-wife is raising them.
She took my child, so I just took him back.
The police explained repeatedly to Hugh, but he refused to admit his crime. That's when I received a call. I hurried to the police station, where I saw Hugh arguing with an officer. His face had lost its former calmness, looking more like a criminal.
Why would you do this? Why? Because you got me fired. Even so, taking the child is not something you can do. What's wrong with taking my own child? There's nothing wrong with that. Your own child? The child isn't yours. He is my child. The test said he was my child. I took him because you took our jobs. You should suffer just like us. You started this, so I've done nothing wrong.
How selfish. You had an affair. What does that matter? I paid the alimony after the divorce, yet you're still making us suffer. You should suffer too.
You got fired because of your infidelity.
A police officer, listening to this pointless argument, intervened. Is this man really your husband? No, he's a stranger. This man claims he's the father of your child. He says you took the child without his permission, so he just took them back. That's not true. Is he out of his mind?
You're saying I'm out of my mind?
He never even held the child once since birth. How can he claim it's his child? But the DNA test proved it's my child. Ah. At that moment, I hesitated, remembering the retest results I had brought with Hugh. But when I received the news of Hugh kidnapping the child, I had brought something else in my bag. You mentioned the DNA test. If I can prove this child is not his, would that settle this matter? Oh. Yes, that's right. If we can do that, we can detain the person as a kidnapping suspect. Then, will this suffice? It's the DNA test report for the child and this man. The officer opened the document and saw the words 99.9% not father and child. Regarding custody, you'll see I have it if you check. The officer handed the report back to me and handcuffed Hugh.
How cowardly! You said he was my child. This test is a lie. It's her trap.
Despite his loud protests, Hugh was detained. But worse was to come. He was dumped by his wife. When she learned of the kidnapping and his detention, she brought the divorce papers, saying, his ex-wife is too dangerous. Realizing what happens when he crosses me. Moreover, staying with a man who has committed a crime is impossible unless there is an extraordinary amount of love. Hugh, having lost everything and facing a real sentence, offered a settlement. Of course, I thought he deserved a real sentence, but fearing he might harm the child after getting out of prison if I provoked him further, I decided to accept the settlement. However, I did demand a considerably high settlement amount. He had to borrow more to pay it off, adding to his debts from the alimony and child support. However, Hugh, who was not prosecuted, apparently tried hard to find re-employment. But having been once involved with the police, it was not easy for him to secure a job, and ultimately, he couldn't find a place to work. Desperate at least to have a place to live, Hugh tried to return to his parents' home. However, after committing fraud in his own child's DNA test and then attempting to kidnap the child, his family refused to have anything to do with him. Having lost any destination, Hugh, with no money, ended up living a homeless life. As for me, I started working at my father's company and am living happily with my child. Because I was bedridden feeling unwell, I ended up significantly behind on my major house cleaning. While I was busily working, Michael casually went out. When I entered Michael's room, I saw a bag sticking out from the dresser. I picked it up. Inside the bag was an SD card. Seeing it along with a message card that said "For Michael," I had a bad feeling. Just as Michael came back, I waited until he went to take a bath and then went back to his room to check the contents on the computer. What is this? I was speechless at the video I saw. Anger welled up inside me. I'm gonna get a divorce. I decided that and gathered all the relatives at my house the next day. Now, please watch this. As all the relatives and Michael turned towards the TV at my voice, I pressed the play button. The scene that appeared left the relatives speechless, and Michael turned pale.
Why is this happening?
As Michael looked at me, I smiled sweetly and handed him a green paper. I'll never forgive him, I'll make him regret it. My name is Jennifer Smith. I'm a 34-year-old housewife. My parents passed away early, but thanks to a large inheritance and the kindness of the neighboring family, I was able to become a nursery teacher, a dream of mine. I quit being a nursery teacher when I was 30. That was because I married my childhood friend, Michael. The trigger for our relationship was the accident that took my parents' lives. I was a high school senior at the time and didn't want to move because I was about to take university entrance exams. I absolutely wanted to attend the university my parents had been supporting. However, my relatives wanted to take me in because of the large inheritance left by my parents. Most of them were strangers to me, and their approach only felt creepy. Michael, who lived next door and was like an older brother to me, drove away the relatives who swarmed around me, wounded by the sudden loss of my parents. Michael was the eldest son of the family next door, 3 years older than me. In front of the relatives, Michael boldly declared, "We'll take care of her. My parents have already given permission, so no complaints. Jennifer is gonna be my wife in the future." I was surprised by the words of Michael, who had always been like a brother to me, but it seemed he was serious, and later he confessed his feelings to me. His earnest character, which I had known since childhood, and the sense of security he provided in times of need became a refuge for me, who had become alone, and we started dating. Michael always prioritized me, and eventually, I truly fell in love with him. Then, when I became accustomed to my job as a nursery teacher, he proposed to me.
What I said when we were students was serious. My feelings haven't changed. I will definitely make you happy, marry me. Absolutely.
Moved to tears, I accepted his proposal. When we told his parents, they were overjoyed and threw a celebration that night. After getting married, about 2 years passed, and I quit my job to become a full-time homemaker. Michael, my husband, had asked me to focus on being a homemaker, which was bittersweet for me since I had to give up my dream job as a preschool teacher. However, I decided to look forward to raising my own children and using my experience in parenting. Michael has a younger sister, Sarah, who was in the same class as me. We attended the same schools since kindergarten and even worked together at the same preschool. Sarah had mixed feelings about me marrying Michael. It was because she didn't get along well with him. Michael's always been nice only to you, Jennifer. He's always unreasonable with me. Do you think so?
I'm sure of it.
Sarah was quite adamant about her views, so I often just listened without arguing. According to her, she was happy to have me in the family. But she didn't like the fact that I was Michael's wife. She often pretended to lament, saying how difficult it was that her best friend had married her not-so-favorite brother. From my perspective, Michael might have been a bit indifferent to Sarah, but I still thought they shared a typical sibling bond. However, Sarah didn't seem to think so and would make a sour face whenever I mentioned it. Jennifer, you can say that because you don't really know my brother's true nature. Do you really think so? I half listened to her, thinking she was just being a typical sister. In hindsight, I regret not paying more attention to her words. 5 years into our marriage, we still didn't have any children. That's when Michael's attitude started to change. Initially, he complained about our household chores not being evenly split, even though we had always shared them equally. Soon, I was doing almost all the housework. With no kids around and you just lounging at home all day, you could at least do a bit more, right? Michael said, words I never imagined he would say. These hurtful comments pained me, but I accepted them, thinking it was my duty as a homemaker. From there, Michael began to frequently use the excuse "you're a homemaker" to push all household responsibilities onto me. One day, while having tea at my in-laws, Michael suddenly started belittling me, laughing. "Her cooking is terrible, and her cleaning is just as sloppy. Can't she do something about it?" The living room went silent, but Michael seemed oblivious, and continued to mock me. "Her laundry skills are mediocre, too. For a homemaker, she hardly does any work." I could tell Sarah was getting irritated next to me. And even though my mother-in-law was smiling, her eyes weren't. Realizing the situation was getting out of hand, I spoke up. "I tend to be absent-minded, so maybe Michael feels unsatisfied with the little things. But still, there's a way to say things, you know. Sarah glared at Michael. Michael glared back at Sarah, and the atmosphere in the living room turned tense. Then, the father-in-law began to speak quietly. A husband should help out where his wife falls short. Besides, Jennifer always helps us out a lot, and we're grateful for that. Michael, though visibly unsatisfied, kept silent in response to his father-in-law's words. Sarah was still upset, but the mother-in-law managed to calm her down. The air was still heavy due to Michael's words. I clapped my hands and forced a smile to change the mood.
Hey! I made a cake, anyone want to share it? Jennifer's cakes are delicious. I'm in.
I was relieved to see Sarah's mood improve. Then, the mother-in-law, Sarah, and I moved to the kitchen.
Sorry about earlier, it's our fault. We know how hard Jennifer works, so try not to overdo it, okay? Thanks.
Her kind words almost brought me to tears. Back in the living room, Michael was sitting turned away, looking even more upset than before. I brought the cake.
Don't want it.
But this is your favorite, pumpkin cake.
I said I don't want it.
As Michael yelled, the plate with the cake vanished from my hands. Looking down, I saw the smashed cake sticking to the floor.
Michael! Apologize to Jennifer. It's her fault for pushing it on me.
Michael, with a guilty face, still refused to apologize. I felt a bit sad, remembering how he used to apologize easily. That's awful. Jennifer, why don't you divorce this guy? What? Don't be ridiculous. It's not your decision. Sarah and Michael, now arguing like siblings, continued to heat up the argument.
A woman without charm won't get married. When I get married is none of your business.
I desperately tried to calm down the shouting Sarah. Michael, watching us, laughed in disbelief and then left, saying he was going out for a drink. Michael's been going out a lot lately. Yeah, he doesn't tell me where he's going. I see. I'll try to find out, don't worry too much. I thanked my kind mother-in-law. My in-laws have always treated me like their own daughter. They scold me when I make a mistake, just like a second set of parents. The relationship with my in-laws was one of the reasons I married Michael. The thought of becoming family with my beloved in-laws and Sarah made me happy. But it's true, I still love Michael. However, since then, Michael's behavior towards me has become increasingly harsh. I'm going out. Again? Where do you keep going every weekend?
Anywhere's fine.
After a while, Michael started going out somewhere every weekend. Sometimes he would stay overnight, but stubbornly refused to tell me where he was going. He even got irritated every time, and gradually we talked less and less. I wondered if I had done something wrong and asked him. But I never got a satisfactory answer. As New Year's approached, I fell ill. My mother-in-law came over to help. It took about a week to fully recover, but the big cleaning was delayed, and I had to start it bit by bit without any help from Michael. Dragging my weary body, I cleaned. The big cleaning was greatly delayed because I had been bedridden. While I was busy, Michael casually went out. In Michael's room, I noticed a bag sticking out of the dresser. I picked it up. Inside was an SD card. Seeing it packed with a card saying "For Michael," I had a bad feeling. Just as Michael returned, I waited until he was in the bath, then went back to his room and checked the contents on the computer. What is this? I was speechless at the video. Anger welled up inside me. Let's get a divorce. Deciding this, I gathered all our relatives at the house the next day. Please watch this. As all the relatives and Michael turned to the TV, I pressed play. Everyone was speechless at the scene, and Michael turned pale.
Why?
Michael looked at me, and I smiled, handing him the divorce papers. Unforgivable, I'll make him regret it. Michael, seeing the papers, turned even paler.
Wait! Divorce is too sudden. What are you saying? After seeing that video, what else but divorce?
At my words, Michael fell silent. The SD card contained footage of a childbirth. Of course, it wasn't mine. It showed a young woman desperately giving birth. At first, I wondered why such a thing existed, but then I saw the man standing beside the woman and understood. It was unmistakably Michael, stroking the woman's head and encouraging her to hang in there. I couldn't mistake Michael's voice, with whom I've been since childhood.
This is... I was just standing in for someone.
Don't bother with such pathetic lies. I turned up the volume on the TV. The conversation between the woman and Michael echoed in the living room.
Emily. It's almost time. Our baby is about to be born. Michael. Yes, I'm trying my best.
After their conversation, the sound of a baby crying could be heard. Then, Michael kissed the woman he called Emily, thanking her repeatedly.
You did great. You were amazing. I did it all for you, my love. I love you too. Oh, Emily. I can't wait to live with you and our child. Me too.
After saying this and kissing her again, the video stopped. The relatives in the living room were stunned, and both the in-laws and Sarah were shaking with anger.
Looking at this, no one's going to believe you were just standing in for someone. This is... I just got carried away. It was just an act of being a father.
In response to Michael's poor excuses, the father-in-law approached him and, in the next moment, struck him. Michael held his struck cheek, standing dumbfounded. The father-in-law was a very calm person who, although he could get angry when something bad was done, had never resorted to physical action. So, this reaction surprised everyone.
Do you even understand what you're saying? Don't you feel any remorse towards Jennifer?
But this is... Michael was still desperately trying to explain. Sarah, with a calm voice, said to him,
I've always disliked you, but I thought I'd keep up the relationship if you cared for my best friend. But I can't consider someone who hurts my dear friend as family. We're done.
At Sarah's words, Michael's face turned red as he yelled.
You're younger than me and too cheeky. Fine, cut ties. I'll be relieved. Then, I'll cut ties too.
Michael froze at the smiling mother-in-law's words. He was quite the mama's boy, although he tried to hide it. I loved the mother-in-law too, so it didn't bother me much, but honestly, seeing Michael, almost 40, still clinging to his mother, wasn't very appealing. Michael seemed puzzled by the mother-in-law's declaration of cutting ties.
I'm the eldest son, right? Mom, you're joking about cutting ties, aren't you?
Do you think I'm someone who would joke in this situation?
No.
The mother-in-law kept smiling, which somehow made it scarier. The whispering relatives began to sit up straight and listen quietly to her. She continued in a calm, slow voice. We don't need to worry about an heir. Jennifer is here. If Jennifer remarries a wonderful man and has children, they will be our heirs.
What? If we divorce, she's a stranger.
At Michael's response, not only the mother-in-law but also I, the father-in-law, and Sarah sighed deeply. In fact, after getting married, I had been formally adopted by the in-laws. It wasn't necessary, but many relatives had been pressuring me to do so for inheritance reasons. The inheritance from us should be yours to use as you like. But to protect you from such relatives, why don't we consider adoption? After my parents passed away, the in-laws never asked me for money. I arranged for tuition and living expenses from the inheritance and gave it to the in-laws. But they didn't touch it and returned it to me, adding a congratulatory gift when I got a job, saying it was important money. I initially refused, but they insisted, so I gratefully accepted it. Because of this background, I trusted the mother-in-law's words. Therefore, I discussed it with Michael and we proceeded with the adoption right after marriage. It seemed Michael had completely forgotten about it.
No, but even if you did adopt, I'm the eldest son and the real child. That's it. I have a child. So, I'm the heir.
Michael, as if he had remembered something great, was met with laughter from the mother-in-law. What are you talking about? As of today, you are no longer my child. Well, legally you'll be my child, but you'll relinquish your inheritance. Michael was speechless at her firm words. He shed large tears from the rejection of his beloved mother-in-law. I added insult to injury. By the way, do you know why I called everyone here today? Michael looked at me with a puzzled face, his face dirty with tears. I felt a bit pathetic. Having loved such a pitiable man. We usually had our New Year's greetings at the in-laws' house. They were the landowners of this area, and many relatives lived nearby. There was no other place that could accommodate the big family of 50 members. However, this time, we limited the number of people and asked families with children to attend at their relatives' houses. So, there were only about 20 people in the living room, half the usual number. Michael seemed not to have noticed this. After I pointed it out, he looked around and finally realized. No children? But I hear crying. Are they in another room? Actually, we have a guest today. Please, come in. At my words, Sarah stood up and opened the sliding door at the back. There stood Emily, smugly, with a baby in her arms. Emily, holding the baby proudly, looked as if she felt welcomed as a matter of course.
Nice to meet you. My name is Emily. This is Kai, my son with Michael, the fruit of our love.
She said this energetically. Emily's attitude changed completely when she responded bluntly to the mother-in-law, who frowned at her. Even though it was through the door, she must have heard the earlier conversation. But then, I noticed the earphones in Emily's hands. Were you listening to music in the next room? Yeah, I was bored. Contrary to her demeanor towards the mother-in-law, she responded to me brusquely. Her attitude was as if she was already the legitimate wife, which irritated me, but then I realized that indeed, she would be the legitimate wife soon. Do you understand why you were called here today?
We're getting divorced, right? So I'll be the new wife of this house. With Kai here, the air is secure. It's a celebration, right?
I couldn't help but sigh at her blissful ignorance. In this tense atmosphere, thinking it's a celebration, how could she be so oblivious to the mood? Michael was initially stunned by the suddenness of it all, but seeing Emily's complete lack of awareness, he seemed to come back to his senses. Emily, this is a difficult discussion we're having right now. I'll contact you later. I can't wait anymore. Just sign the divorce papers now. Emily said this as she handed a pen to Michael. Then she turned to me with a smug smile. Jennifer, was it?
Thank you for your services until today. From now on, I will be the one receiving lots of love from Michael.
Even when she said this with such a smug attitude, I could only find it distasteful. After seeing that video of the childbirth, any love I had for Michael had cooled. Even if asked, I wouldn't want Michael's love anymore. But to Emily, it seemed as though I was upset.
I'm sorry, but Michael prefers me. He says my skin is firmer and prettier, and I'm more comfortable to hold. He said his wife was like a chicken bone.
Emily laughed scornfully, and a flustered Michael tried to intervene. The looks from everyone around were cold as they watched the two of them. I smiled back at Emily and decided to respond to her comment.
No, thank you for being there. I don't need him anymore, so please, take him.
Emily's eyebrows twitched at my words. She seemed to want to say something, but I ignored her and continued.
Well, you're getting a man who's about to be cut off from his family, lose his house, his job, and become penniless. But if you're okay with that.
Emily looked shocked. Emily probably thought that once Michael and I divorced, I would leave this house and she would take my place. As I thought about this, I continued to smile at Emily. Michael, wait. It's that wife who's leaving, right? Because this is your house, right? I'm going to be the lady of this house, right? You said I could be a housewife, right? Emily confronted Michael. Michael awkwardly averted his gaze from Emily.
Michael, look at me. What are we going to do? I quit my job, you know. You said I could leave Kai with your parents and indulge in luxury. Emily began to lose control and started to pull at her hair.
The sound of Emily's screaming startled Kai, and he too began to cry, filling the living room with his cries. I reluctantly took Kai from Emily and held him. He was a cute baby, probably around 4 months old, just able to hold up his head. As I gently rocked him, he calmed down and fell asleep again. But then I realized Emily was glaring at me.
Give him back. He's my and Michael's child, the heir to this house.
Please keep your voice down, he's just fallen asleep. As I was speaking, Emily snatched Kai back from me and returned him to the baby carrier. He woke up for a moment but fell asleep again as Emily rocked him. I looked at Emily, relieved. Emily glared at me sharply, as if I were her mortal enemy. Even if you take Kai, it won't work out for you.
A woman who can't get pregnant should leave this house.
Emily's words made me realize that Michael hadn't told her about our situation. It was about why I quit my job as a nursery teacher. Emily, didn't Michael tell you why we don't have children?
I don't know. Because you're not loved, right?
Emily said this smugly. as if to suggest she was superior to me as a woman. But that didn't matter to me. Behind Emily, Michael's face turned pale, but I ignored him and revealed the truth. Michael naturally has difficulty fathering children. Eh? Emily froze, her previous confidence shattered. The relatives around us were also stunned, mouths agape. In fact, the reason I quit my job was due to a miscarriage. I desperately wanted a child and went for a checkup for the first time. Michael was tested too. His results showed that I had no issues, but Michael naturally had difficulty fathering children. It wasn't impossible, but it was highly unlikely to happen naturally. The recent pregnancy was indeed a miracle, but it ended in miscarriage due to genetic issues. Despite the sadness, I strongly wanted to give birth next time. And Michael felt the same. We decided to start fertility treatments. Fortunately, there was still plenty of inheritance left, so I resigned at Michael's suggestion, who was concerned about my health. However, the treatments were unsuccessful, and we were considering adoption when Michael became less interested in the idea. Looking back, he probably started his affair during our fertility treatments, and Emily's pregnancy was discovered around the time we were discussing adoption. Hearing this, Emily looked at Michael, her face turning pale. So, Emily, is Kai really Michael's child?
The possibility isn't zero, right? It's our love.
Even now, she was talking about love in such abstract terms, which was just absurd. I smiled sweetly and added the final blow. That's why I said it. The chance of a natural pregnancy is virtually zero.
But.
Emily was scrambling for excuses, her eyes darting around. Sarah stepped in to cut off her escape.
Stop lying, you're my friend's wife, right?
What? Michael's eyes widened as he looked at Sarah. Sarah exchanged a glance with me and nodded, then showed Emily the screen of her smartphone. It displayed a photo of Emily, Kai, an unknown man, and a 4-year-old girl. I had contacted Sarah immediately after watching the video the day before. Recognizing Emily's face from her phone, Sarah checked the SNS page of a male acquaintance and realized Emily was his wife. I recognized her from the name and face. We worked at the same part-time job, and I often heard stories about her. Are you married? Michael asked. Emily didn't respond, but her expression confirmed the truth of Sarah's words. She had a shotgun wedding, right? And I haven't heard any talk of divorce. According to this photo, Kai is written to be that guy's child. Oh, no. True love, huh? Pretending your husband's child is someone else's to switch to a richer guy. Is it the money you love? Sarah looked down at Emily with complete contempt. Emily, red-faced and trembling, remained silent, unable to respond. By the way, we've called him over. He should be here soon.
No, please. It was just a moment of weakness. Please don't tell my husband.
It's too late for that. As Sarah spoke, the doorbell rang, and Emily collapsed in despair. A relative opened the door, and Emily's husband entered. He immediately started yelling upon seeing Emily.
You cheated on me? What were you thinking? It's not like that. It's a misunderstanding. I heard everything on the phone.
Realizing she had no way out, Emily froze, tears streaming down her face. Her husband took Kai from her and stood up. Then began to apologize to us. My wife has caused a great deal of trouble. We are getting a divorce. Please feel free to claim compensation from her. I will also be filing a claim.
Compensation? Wait, I don't want a divorce.
Emily's refusal to divorce was met with a disenchanted look from her husband.
3 years ago, when your affair came to light, you said you'd stop, right? But you continued the relationship. I will raise the child. I have no intention of letting you see him again.
We were all shocked by Emily's husband's revelation. It was surprising that she had continued the affair secretly even after being caught once. To think it was just a momentary lapse of judgment, such an excuse is hard to believe. 3 years ago, huh? No, Jennifer, it's not what you think. What's different about going out and marking your territory elsewhere? My words made Michael twitch. I'm not usually one to get angry. Sarah once told me that while I'm rarely angry, it's scary when I am. Michael seemed surprised by my attitude, as I had rarely been angry with him.
I'm disappointed. I never knew you had been betraying your family for so long. I always tried to reconcile you with Sarah, but it seems I was the one who was blind.
Sarah nodded as if she finally understood. Michael was stunned by my direct words.
I'll also be filing for compensation. And of course, child support.
Eh? I touched my stomach. I was actually pregnant. I had kept it a secret from everyone except Sarah, intending to announce it during the New Year's greeting. I had been feeling unwell a while back, which turned out to be morning sickness. I had recently been told by the doctor that I was in a stable phase of pregnancy and had planned to surprise Michael and his parents. The artificial insemination worked. It's truly your child. I kept quiet because I didn't want to get your hopes up and then disappoint you.
So, that's...
Michael collapsed, utterly defeated. Emily, too, seemed to have no energy left to argue, overwhelmed by her impending divorce and my pregnancy. Then, please fill out the divorce papers. I handed a pen to Michael and left the house with Sarah. By now, Michael would be writing the divorce papers under the stern gaze of his parents-in-law. Feeling relieved that I had said everything I needed to, I enjoyed a leisurely tea time with Sarah. Later, Michael and I finalized our divorce. Michael, who was working at a family-owned company, got fired due to this scandal, literally leaving him penniless and kicked out of the house. Emily, now divorced, tried to extract money from Michael. However, seeing his impoverished state in a shabby apartment from his newly found part-time job, she quickly disappeared. Eventually, to pay for alimony and child support, Emily worked at a seedy bar, where she got involved with troublesome customers and rumors have it that she was taken somewhere. I learned about this because Sarah, laughing about the fleeting nature of true love, informed me. She got the information from Emily's ex-husband, who is her friend. Recently, Sarah has been hanging out more with her friend and their kids, and the story came up in their conversations. This friend was someone Sarah had a crush on during their student days. He apparently had feelings for her too, but since Emily, his then-girlfriend, got pregnant, he married her out of responsibility. Sarah denies it, but her blushing face suggests that maybe a new romance is blossoming for her. After Michael left, my in-laws were initially downcast, but they perked up amidst the bustle of my pregnancy preparations. Now, they dote on their grandchild and have become wonderful grandparents. Initially, they were hesitant, not wanting to impose on me, but gradually, they started treating me like a real daughter again. Living together after the birth, our relationship has become so close that even Sarah jokes about not knowing who the real daughter is. As for me, I safely gave birth to a beautiful baby girl. We hope she grows up bright and cheerful. I hope my daughter grows up to be as bright and cheerful as Sarah, who is not only my best friend but now also like a sister to me. She is someone I truly admire. Jennifer. She won't stop crying.
Okay, I'm coming.
I hear my daughter's cries and Sarah's troubled voice from the living room. Laughing, I respond and leave the balcony. Outside, the sky is clear and cloudless.
I feel a bright future awaits us. Under this vast blue sky. I'll get the insurance money when the old lady passes away. I'm going on a business trip tomorrow, so get ready.
I had become Sam's mentor when he joined our company mid-career, and we ended up falling in love and getting married. But I had no idea about his true nature. I can't believe he can say such things so casually. One day, I had to tell Sam something unavoidable. However, I couldn't get in touch with him. He said he was on a business trip, but I already knew where he really was. It seems like he's having a fun time, but he better be prepared when he gets back. 2 weeks later, Sam returned home, looking happy, and I had to bring him back to reality.
Your mother's funeral is over.
What? He doesn't seem to grasp the reality yet, but I wonder what his face will look like when he does. By then, it will be too late. He'll learn firsthand the meaning of there's no use crying over spilt milk. I'm Erica Warner, and I'll be turning 40 this year. I work at a jam company in a region similar to Nebraska. After graduating from college, I worked at a company I joined on a whim, but I realized that wasn't what I really wanted to do, so I bravely changed jobs. It was when I was 25 years old. Since joining this jam company, I've been here for 15 years. Looking back, a lot has happened, but I'm satisfied with the way I work. The most fulfilling moment is when my ideas and the jams I've envisioned come to life and reach many fans. I feel happy when people eat the jam and say, "It's really good."
You're as impressive as ever. Thanks, boss. I just got a message that the new flavors packaging is about to be finished, so I'm excited about that.
That's great. But don't push yourself too hard. Still, this company would be in trouble without you, Erica. Well, thank you for the kind words. The boss, Terry, took over this jam company founded by her husband and is now the second-generation president. She stood up the company single-handedly right after losing her husband, determined not to let it fail. I've always wanted to be like her. She is my role model. Terry appreciates my work, so all I can do is work hard in return. Then one day, Terry called me into a separate room during work. Yes, did you need me? Sorry to bother you during your busy time. Actually, I'd like you to mentor a new employee. I was surprised to see who Terry introduced. Him? You noticed, huh? No use hiding it, he's my son. I want him to eventually learn everything about sales and office work, so I'm hoping you can teach him, Erica. I was surprised to be entrusted with such an important task. Me? Are you sure I'm the right person for this? Don't say me. You've always been hardworking since you joined the company. I've seen it, so I know it's true. So, what should I call you? Then, he stepped forward to introduce himself. I'm Sam Warner. I was in sales at a manufacturer before, but I decided to change jobs because I wanted to help protect this company. I'm looking forward to your guidance. He was very refreshing and made a good impression with his clear and confident way of speaking. He seemed to catch on quickly at work, and he had the ability to think and act on his own. His experience in sales at his previous job was reassuring, and I felt confident in trusting him with tasks. Erica, I mean. Sam, who usually spoke clearly, was hesitating. I felt something was off. What's wrong? Is there a problem? Well, it's not a problem, but do you like movies? Movies? Yeah, I like them. I haven't had much time to go see them recently, though. Would you like to go to a movie with me? There's one I've been wanting to see, but I feel awkward going alone. I was red in the face, wondering what he was going to say, and it turned out to be an invitation to a movie.
Oh, I've been wanting to see that movie too. Let's go together. How about next Sunday at the cinema near the station? Great. Yes, at the cinema near the station, next Sunday. Thank you. Come on, it's not work. I should be the one thanking you. I had never dated a man before and had been focused solely on studying and work. So, the day I decided to go to the movies with Sam, I was really nervous. However, the time spent with Sam was so enjoyable that it blew all my nerves away. We talked about fun and interesting things that we couldn't discuss at work, and I found myself wanting to know more about him, to talk more with him. Luckily, it seemed Sam felt the same way. I've actually had my eye on you ever since I joined here. If you're okay with me being like this, please marry me. Yes, I'd love to. I look forward to spending our lives together. I never thought that I, who had been distant from men and focused only on work, would meet and marry someone I wanted to be with this much. A few months into our marriage, our newlywed life was going smoothly. It was so fulfilling to share life with someone I loved. Sam had learned everything I taught him and was now fully independent. However, I couldn't overlook the fact that his true nature was gradually revealing itself. Sam didn't do anything around the house. No, he couldn't. He had lived alone for a long time, and since he had his own rules at home, he probably wasn't troubled by not being able to do household chores. Sam's surroundings are always a mess. Honestly, since we both work, I'd like us to share household chores and create a comfortable living space, but Sam seems the type who doesn't mind how messy the room gets. Before we got married, he said, let's just do chores as we notice them. Dividing them up is a hassle. But in the end, it always falls on me to do them. Hey, I've told you to put your laundry in the basket. Don't just leave your socks rolled up in the hallway. Why do I have to be instructed on everything in my own house? What, you want me to not even take off my socks when I come home?
Nobody's saying that. I'm just asking you to put your socks in the basket since they need washing. Why do you take it the wrong way?
What? Seriously, this is annoying. I can't even relax in my own home. It's like I have to be on edge all the time with you, like I'm at work.
Saying that, he always shifts the topic and snaps back. Then storms out of the house. Once he leaves, it's normal for him not to contact me for days. Thankfully, since we got married and I moved to a different department, it's less awkward not to run into him at work. He seems to be showing up to work, but I wish he'd stop clicking his tongue every time we pass each other in the hallway. It's irritating when he does that every time we cross paths. It's like something a grade schooler would do. Then, after a while, he comes home as if nothing happened. I've decided not to stir things up anymore, so I just keep quiet.
Hey, Erica, there's a video game I've been interested in recently. It's cool if I buy it, right?
He knows I don't like to argue and clam up when things escalate, so he says this knowing I'll give in. We're under the same roof. I don't want to make a big deal and create more problems, so I just agree.
Sure, you can buy it. I'm sorry I haven't been considerate enough to understand how tired you are from work.
My resistance is feeble, I say I too, but it doesn't seem to resonate with Sam. Or rather, he doesn't notice. It seems like he only heard "sure, you can buy it," and is already meticulously choosing which video game to buy online. I can only sigh, thinking of how I worried and agonized over Sam not coming home for days, and now he's acting as if nothing happened. Then one day, I got a call from my mom. My mom and I are very close, and we go on trips together once or twice a year. Since I started working, I've been paying for our trips as a small way of giving back, and inviting my mom has become a tradition. My mom is quite active for her age, so I'm always happy when she eagerly agrees to my invitations. The year before we got married, we went to a place similar to spa resort, so I was thinking maybe spa again this year, or maybe even an amusement park. I was looking at websites when Sam came home without me noticing. "What are you looking at so intently?" "Oh, welcome back. I was just planning a trip with my mom. It's kind of an annual tradition, making memories, you know?" Then Sam made a face like he'd tasted something bitter. "Really? You're the type who still hangs out with your mom even after becoming an adult? What's so strange about going on a trip with my mom?" "Strange? Why would it be? I was just deciding whether to go to a spa like last year, or maybe to an amusement park to enjoy some events." "So, going on a trip means you'll be leaving the house empty?" "It's just for one night, so I'll be back soon." "Don't worry." Sam looked around the room and replied.
"We're married, and you're going on a trip with your own mom? What about me? Plus, if the house isn't cleaned for one day, it'll get all dusty, right?"
I thought to myself, this is rich coming from someone who's never lifted a finger to clean, but I didn't argue. Both of us work during the day and live together, so the house won't get that dirty. Plus, I'll make sure to clean up the day before, so it'll be fine.
Anyway, about the trip, I never said it was okay for you to go. Don't you lack a sense of duty as a wife who should protect the home?
I thought, I work full-time just like you, but realized it was pointless to argue and stayed silent. After all, as an adult, he shouldn't have any trouble if I'm not home for one night. Sam, misunderstanding something, snorted.
Recently, that Mika who joined our company seems way more competent.
Mika is a female employee who joined our company this year and works in the same department as Sam. I didn't understand why he brought her up all of a sudden, but I didn't want to continue the conversation, so I didn't ask. However, I would later regret not asking more about Mika at that time. I decided to go on the trip with my mom despite Sam's objections. But 5 days before the trip, on Sunday, I received a call from an unknown number. Thinking it might be work-related, I answered casually, only to find it was a call from a hospital. My mother had been urgently transported there after a traffic accident.
"What should I do? My mom's been in a traffic accident and taken to the hospital."
"Huh, I see." Sam replied distractedly, not taking his eyes off the video game on the TV screen. Worried and unable to stay put, I decided to go to my mother. Fortunately, it was Sunday, and neither of us had work, so I could leave right away. I asked Sam to come with me.
Please come with me, Sam. I'm too anxious to go alone.
Why should I? What? I was speechless at Sam's unexpected response.
Why do I have to go see your old lady? I'm done with this, then I gotta go to work.
It was ridiculous, him playing video games and glued to the TV screen, now suddenly claiming he had work. How can you say something like that at a time like this?
What? You think I'm lying?
So annoying. Annoying, you say? Anyway, I can't go.
Just make sure you're back by dinner.
Was Sam always like this? Before we got married, he was full of humor and kindness. You're worried about your dinner at a time like this?
What else can you do but housework? I don't know if you've won over my mom or what, but you're being ridiculous thinking you're up to it. At least be competent enough to take care of me and cook.
How can you say that when my mom's life is unknown after a traffic accident?
I'll get the insurance money when the old lady passes away. I'm going on a business trip tomorrow, so get ready.
Despite my concern for my mom and my urgency to get to her, Sam only grumbles about not wanting to go, talking about dinner, his trip tomorrow, and only about himself. If I get wrapped up in his pace, I might end up missing the last chance to see my mom. I can't afford to have that regret. I know what I need to do now. Anyway, I'm going. I don't know if I'll be late, so take care of your own dinner. You can manage your business trip preparation, like clothes and underwear, on your own. Somehow shaking off Sam's complaints, I managed to reach the hospital where my mom is admitted. But the damage from the traffic accident is severe, and my mom's consciousness is unstable. Even when she wakes up, her awareness is not clear, and watching the monitor makes me anxious. I just want her to regain consciousness and get better quickly. I'd stay by her side if I could. However, my constantly ringing phone, mostly messages from Sam, doesn't allow that. The messages are filled with accusations about how I'm a failed wife. Disqualified as a wife. A future president's wife should be more prepared, he writes, blaming me with every word he can think of. My going to the hospital must have really bothered him. The messages grow longer, and reading them becomes a chore. Torn between taking care of my mom, dealing with Sam, and work, my feelings are in turmoil. It's impossible to stay calm in such a situation. Noticing my hectic state between the hospital and work, the boss called me to her office.
I heard from other employees. Your mom's in a critical condition. Don't worry about work right now, just stay with your mom.
Thank you. But it was so sudden, I haven't contacted our clients, and I might have to come to the office occasionally, but I don't know when I can fully return to work.
Don't worry about that. Just let me know when you have an idea of when you can come back. I'm waiting for your mom to get better and for you to return.
Thank you. I'm filled with a mix of gratitude and guilt. Since I'm at work, I should at least finish what I can before going back to the hospital. I opened my computer to work. Then I noticed something on one of the monitors visible from my desk. Our company often rents monthly apartments for jobs in distant locations with top-notch security linked to a security company. We can check the entrance security cameras from our office computers 24/7. On the entrance camera, I noticed two figures. Sam? This monthly apartment is rented for our company's new female employees. Sam said he was going on a business trip, but he wasn't supposed to use this apartment. Why is Sam at this apartment, which should be used by another female employee at this time? Then, there he was, leaving the entrance hand in hand and gazing affectionately with a female employee. Why? My mind was filled with confusion. My mother is in a critical condition after a traffic accident, and Sam is not going to the hospital or staying by her side, but instead, he's on a date with another woman? For now, I decided to record the monitor's footage on my phone as evidence. This video might be crucial if something comes up. I couldn't believe my husband's infidelity, and I was unsure how to report this situation to my mother-in-law. It's tricky because he's my husband and her son. If I handle this wrongly, it could create a rift in our relationship going forward. While I was hesitating, the phone rang with the familiar number of the hospital. A number I've memorized from seeing it so often. Calls at work, in the middle of the night, each call making me tense. Fearing the worst. A number that brings an overflow of unpleasant thoughts and feelings. I feared that something might have happened while I was away from the hospital. Hesitantly, I answered the phone and was told unbelievable news. I rushed to the hospital. Unable to accept the reality of the situation. I needed to inform Sam. Desperately trying to reach him, the calls wouldn't connect.
Please, pick up the phone.
I kept calling, praying, but it went straight to voicemail, showing no sign of reaching Sam. Eventually, the calls didn't even go to voicemail, they were cut off immediately. He probably got annoyed with my repeated calls and blocked me. The emotionless announcement, "The customer is not available," echoed painfully in my ears. Despite my frustration over the phone not connecting, I knew I had things to take care of. That was all I could do. I returned home to prepare what was necessary. What should I do next? With so many thoughts tangling in my head, Sam returned home.
I'm back. Got some great fish as a souvenir from the trip, can you prepare it?
Hearing his carefree voice, I realized Sam had returned home. Sam, you're back now. You're late, aren't you? Yeah, got caught up with some work stuff, so I got back later than planned. Oh, I see. Oh, and I sent you a message too. As I was choosing my words, Sam suddenly started to celebrate. Oh, about your mother, huh? You were her only child, right? You're an only child, and with your mom gone, you'll get the full insurance amount, won't you? While saying this, Sam showed me a car catalog. I've had my eye on this car for a while. How about it? If you say you want to go for a drive, I'll take you. What is he talking about at this point? Your mother's funeral is over. What? Yes, your mother-in-law's funeral. I tried to contact you several times but couldn't get through. Sam seemed unable to grasp the situation.
What? I didn't hear about it. It's your mother we're talking about, right?
She was buying some snacks at the department store to bring as a gift. That's when she stumbled on the sidewalk and accidentally stepped into the road.
What? Can that even happen?
He asked, shaking me vigorously. I was at a loss for words, being shaken. I was worried because there were no red receipts on the messages. I guess some things can only be understood by blood relatives. What I meant by things only a blood relative would understand is that it seems like your mother left a letter. I first heard about it from the lawyer too. They said I can't see the contents until you return. Then Sam stood up abruptly and shouted. A lawyer can't see the contents until I return, that means. I'll contact the lawyer right away. I was told to get in touch as soon as you returned.
Great, do that. This timing is like luck coming my way. I'll get both the insurance money and the company.
On the way to the lawyer's office with Sam, he kept murmuring to himself while looking at his phone, I want that, this would be nice. What we were told at the lawyer's office was about the existence of a will. A will? I thought it was just a letter. It turns out my mother-in-law had written a will and entrusted it to a longtime friend who is a lawyer. She had planned ahead, thinking about what would happen after she was gone, which was just like her. According to the will, the company was to be passed on to me, her daughter-in-law. Even if something happened leading to a divorce, the will stated that I should inherit the company and serve as its president. I didn't know about this.
What? Isn't that odd? Why would the wife become the president when there's a biological son? What about me?
The will only mentioned that, so Sam was furious.
Hey! This can't be valid. And what's this about a divorce or whatever?
I calmed down the enraged Sam and left the scene. A few days passed, and it seemed Sam had done some thinking. He approached me as if nothing had happened before. Hey, since you're the president, that naturally makes me the vice president, right? I don't like working under you,
but I'm not cut out to be just a regular employee forever.
I was baffled by his assumption that he could become vice president. I called Sam into a room at our workplace.
It's clear that you can't remain just an ordinary employee. Please check these documents. If I sign this, I'll be vice president, or maybe even chairman. Either way, hurry up and show me.
I handed Sam a document.
A termination notice? What's this?
Exactly what it looks like. I intend to fire you.
What? Isn't that absurd?
Oh, I get it.
You don't like my attitude, so this is your revenge. Here's the document summarizing the reasons.
I showed Sam the documentation of his various misconducts. Misusing company funds. Repeatedly engaging in unnecessary entertainment. Making customers feel uncomfortable. And improperly using the company's monthly apartment. Your mother had told me about it, and I had been discreetly investigating. The recent misuse of the monthly apartment rented for a new employees, and not going to business trip didn't go unnoticed either.
So, I'm fired, huh?
Fine by me. You'll work and support me, right? This isn't about our home life. We're discussing work matters here.
Ah, yes. I guess I'm finally living the freeloader life. Well, that's easy for me.
He carelessly signed the document without even checking. Confirming his messy signature, I pulled out another document.
A divorce paper? What do you mean?
We're getting divorced. This is my final request, not as a president but as your wife. What do you mean, divorce? I was planning to live off your earnings from now on. He looked at me with begging eyes, rubbing his hands together. How can you be okay with cheating using the company's money and then expect to go back to normal? No, I was out of my mind then. Erica is the only one for me, you know.
In a marriage, there's no such thing as a main choice. You cheated and must have been prepared for the consequences, right?
As I spoke calmly, Sam began to panic.
Don't abandon me like this. If I lose my job and get divorced from you, how am I supposed to live? You're an adult, you can earn and live on your own, right? And after cheating, you still think we can go back to normal?
Then Sam looked at me with tearful eyes. Come on, do I really have to sign this? I think we can still make it work. I have no intention of starting over. And if you don't sign, I'll be heading straight to the lawyer's office. Sam, seemingly resigned, signed the divorce papers. I took the signed papers and faced Sam.
One last thing to tell you. The woman you cheated with, lying about being on a business trip and abandoning your mother, she's quite something.
What do you mean?
Don't talk about her like that.
Sam shouted, his hair in disarray. No need to yell. It seems she wasn't just with you. From the security camera footage, she's been seen with 2 or 3 other men. Maybe you were just one of her flings?
That can't be true.
Believe it or not, it's up to you.
But it's scary to see you not facing reality.
I had nothing more to say to Sam. Holding the signed divorce papers, I quickly headed to the city office. I could hear Sam shouting something in the background, but I didn't stop. I eventually divorced Sam. With the lawyer my mother-in-law had appointed, I managed the divorce and alimony claims smoothly. Sam was stubborn until the end, but living with someone who became so self-centered after marriage was more painful. Why did he think we could still work things out after his infidelity? I once asked him. And his answer was unexpected. We're connected at the soul, so I thought we'd never part, no matter what. You understand, right? This feeling. What do you mean all of a sudden? Connected at the soul? I can't understand that reasoning. Well, someone as harmonious as me can hear the voice of the soul. I'm not asking about that. If you can betray someone you're supposedly connected with, sorry, but I'd rather not. In the end, Sam was just a self-centered man who always put himself first. All I have left is the company my former mother-in-law left me. I'm committed to preserving and growing this company as a way to repay her. The company has been doing well, with new products becoming hits and increasing sales. The increased media attention and rising sales are incredibly rewarding. Being supported by many fans has brought me this far, which I am genuinely happy about. However, the pressure often outweighs the joy. I believe there's always a part of me that feels the need to strive harder. Becoming the president and seeing the company continue successfully brings me a sense of relief. Divorce is regrettable, but I see it as a learning experience in life. Sam, who had been fired for causing harm to the company and repeated violations, was now unrelated to me. But unexpectedly, I saw him again. It was during a visit to a supermarket to discuss a new product from my company. While talking to an employee about the product, I heard a familiar voice. Sam, being scolded by an employee who seemed to be his senior despite looking younger, was stocking shelves with a sulking face, unchanged from before. The moment he noticed me, his face lit up as if he'd seen a savior in hell, and he approached me. "I always thought I'd see you again someday. What's this all of a sudden? Shouldn't you get back to work?"
The workplace can't run without me, right? I mean, if you say you want me back, I could consider returning.
Does he seriously think the workplace can't run without him? I wonder if he is seriously thinking that. What does he think of his own work capability? I almost burst into laughter thinking about it. But I couldn't laugh in this situation. It's somewhat amazing that he still believes he can return to the company. I smiled and responded.
Who would want to call back someone who betrayed their partner and cheated, someone who can't even follow company rules? Well, I mean, we were married, right? You're the president, so you can make it happen, right? No one would oppose you in that small company.
Sam laughed mockingly. The former president is someone very important to me. A company important to her as well. And you think you can return after insulting it?
No, I mean, it was just a joke. There's nothing more to talk about.
Sam's bad habit was unchanged. When he senses a bad situation, he resorts to claiming it's just a joke. Does he think saying it's a joke makes everything okay? Not knowing the difference between what's okay to say and what's not, even as an adult, is pitiful. Or whatever it is. There's something about him that evokes such feelings. I finished up my work quickly and left. By the way, the new employee Sam cheated with got involved with a married man and ended up in a lawsuit. I couldn't see through her, but it seems like I was just swept up in her games. Envious characters never change, it seems. Watching her, I realized she had resigned. When I got the call from a resignation service, I wasn't surprised and felt nothing. She's now struggling in her daily life, being sued for damages by the married man's spouse. Honestly, I learned that people who stray from the right path fall on their own, without needing someone else's intervention. I'm still working hard every day to protect the company left to me by the former president. There are times when work doesn't go as planned or the reputation dips, but I think I'm managing. My mother, who was hospitalized for a long time, is finally getting discharged, which I'm looking forward to. The trip I couldn't take with her that day, once she recovers, we'll enjoy it just the two of us.